The one thing I don't understand is if he had signed with Don King, the top boxing promoter, and he wasn't washed up by any means at this point. He
No.
was a massive draw still at the peak of his career and looked in fantastic shape. That Don King wouldn't have fought more on this if there was so many questions, because to Don King, that's a big money maker right there. So that's the one thing that I find a little unusual. Did you ever understand why he didn't, or did you think he was part of this whole situation?
You're asking really good questions again, and I think that's because you know the business. I did try to contact Don King. I tried on three various occasions after Tommy passed away, and his gatekeeper kept on hanging up on me, and so I kept calling back, right? And she said, I asked to speak to Don King, and she said, "Well, no, you're recording this phone call." And I went, "No, I'm not," and I wasn't recording the phone call. She said, "Yeah, I can hear clicking in the background," and she kept hanging up on me. So after three hang-ups, I thought, okay, why isn't he wanting to talk to me? So, so, and why in the 10 years has he not come up and said, "Oh my goodness, Tommy Morrison did not have HIV on February 10th, 1996. He should have been able to fulfill this multi-million-dollar contract he and I had." But not a word, Hannibal, not a peep from him. Let me just show you a couple of other documents, and then you can decide for yourself, right? So the opponent on February 10th, 1996 was a guy named Arthur Stormy Weathers, right? And Arthur Stormy Weathers was under contract with Don King as the promoter. So during this lawsuit, the commission filed three exhibits. Exhibit 0102, which is a letter to the commission from Don King Productions. And it's basically saying two flight cancellations for this Arthur Stormy Weathers, one being the 10th of February, that he couldn't fight on that day, and the other one being a cancellation of a fight for the 24th of February, which probably should have been Tommy's fight, right? So here's an exhibit reminding the commission that Arthur Stormy's couldn't fight. Then there's another exhibit that's again to Don King, and it was produced by the commission. So both the commission and Don King had this, and it's a letter from Arthur Stormy Weathers' manager, basically, and I've posted this out there, everybody can read it, and it's basically saying that Arthur Stormy Weathers is not able to fight Tommy on February 10th because his physician says he cannot fight because of a bad sinus issue. And this is coming from Arthur Stormy's manager to Don King. All right, so, and that's February 2nd. So that's a good 8 days before the fight. So typically, if somebody pulls out, then they get somebody else to fight. Kind of like Hasim Rahman, who just fought some guy that was 100 pounds more than him with a week's notice, right? So those things happen today, and I'm sure they happened back in the 90s as well. And then the other exhibit is 0104, which is the actual physician's note saying that, Arthur Stormy Weathers cannot fight for the next 2 to 3 weeks. And then there is the contract, Don King and Arthur Stormy Weathers, which is signed on the 9th of February. So in other words, the commission doesn't really care whether a fighter or opponent couldn't fight, and neither did Don King, because they still went with the photo shoot of the weigh-in on the 9th of February. Did they know that on the 10th of February that the fighter that was going to be suspended was Tommy Morrison? So is that why they went through it? Is that why they didn't get another opponent for Tommy? Who knows? Then the other thing that Don King should have realized, being his promoter, is that medical release form, here's the exhibit, and this was produced by the commission as well, has a signature on there, basically allowing Tommy to release all his medicals. And the thing is, it's not Tommy's signature. and the date is fudged on the corner here. And I had a professional forensic document examiner go through the signature, and the signature looks more like it's been created by Tommy's ex-manager. So there's a lot of stuff there that maybe Don King should have picked up on, but didn't. And then you've got the physician who did the weigh-in, and here he's saying, I've examined the above named person, find them in physical condition to engage in boxing contest or wrestling exhibition for the above date. And it's dated February 9th, 1996, and it's basically giving Tommy clearance to fight, right? Well, if that's not enough, Hannibal, in this court case, the executive director for the commission, Bob Bennett, there he is, and he says in document 140, filed under oath, he says Morrison was not indefinitely suspended on February 10th, 1996. Well, why isn't Don King jumping up at that? I certainly jumped up at this. What do you mean he wasn't suspended? The whole world knows he got suspended, but it's in court documents. Well, if that's not enough for Don King, who has not said a word in this, and, you know, poor guy, he's in his 90s now, on July 11th, 2006, and it's exhibit 0015, and it's produced by the Nevada Commission themselves, it's lifting the suspension from February 10th, 1996. It's saying to Fight Facts, which is the company that deals with the suspension list, is telling them to change the suspension on boxer Tommy David Morrison on the federal suspension list from his pre-fight medicals done February 10th. In other words, let's forget those pre-fight medicals and put their license denied, right? So he was never suspended, although we all know that he was, and he was denied his license because he violated a law that did not exist. Well, Don King, help me. Why aren't you in this picture?
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news updates. Follow us on Twitter at the Hannibal TV for instant updates.